Hi, Roy here, and welcome again to another edition of the Right Has Left podcast, where we talk all things Trumpism and the current White House administration. Since I've got a lot of content for this show, let's just go ahead and get right into it. So, if you've been following along, there has been a proposed extension of the ceasefire between Iran and the United States and Israel. And sources have confirmed that the United States and Iranian negotiators are agreeing or trying to agree on a framework for a 60-day ceasefire extension as they continue the peace talks. But, of course, it still needs President Donald Trump's approval. He went to the Situation Room, reviewed it, and did not make a decision. Of course, this all follows up on a confirmed report that from United States media that a 60-day ceasefire is hopefully in the works, and that the Strait of Hormuz will reopen. And this is, of course, all contingent upon what Trump wants to do. Now, Trump, as you're well aware of, has, as he makes certain decisions of what he wants to do and what he does not want to do, the stock market reflects upon his decisions. The announcement that a 60-day ceasefire was possible, oil prices dropped down about 20 cents a gallon. As he continues to, maybe he doesn't want to make a decision, oil prices go back up. It's just kind of strange how that all follows into suit, doesn't it, when you've got things like that. And it kind of bothers me a little bit, where you got speculation on the stock markets and what he says and doesn't say. I know it just happens to fall into place like that, but it's just interesting, isn't it, how when he says something and then he postpones, things change on the stock market. When he says he does something positive, it, reflects positive things on the stock market. When he says negative, the stock market backs off again. And there's, of course, people inside that kind of knows what he is going to say and what he doesn't say, and how people, play into the stock market. Is it illegal? Probably not, but still. So anyway, about the peace agreement, let's get back to that. So Iran will pledge not to build a nuclear weapon, and the United States will discuss sanctions relief as well as the unfreezing of Iranian assets, according to what's going on with these proposals. Now, Trump said he, of course, will not be rushed into a deal. And, of course, that's reflective on when he came out of the Situation Room. He said he doesn't think he's going to be signing it just quite yet. And, Iran, of course, they're going to continue to play this all out as to what he does or doesn't do. Iran is in no hurry either. Again, since the United States started this war with Iran, it's been kind of an up and down situation, and it goes back and forth. Trump also said that the United States will watch over the Strait of Hormuz as part of the agreement, but nobody's going to control it. And according to Iranian state television, the memorandum of understanding being negotiated between Iran and the United States would lift the U.S. blockade of Iranian imports in return for the reopening of the strait to pre-war levels. And, of course, the White House said, oh, that's not true. Of course, just as you know, this past Tuesday, Iran claimed that they shot down another United States Reaper drone and shot at an F-35 fighter jet that entered the country's airspace after the United States military said self-defense strikes overnight targeted Iranian forces. So what does this all lead to? Well, the peace agreement between the United States and Iran is very, very thin. Iran, violates certain parts of the ceasefire, and the United States, of course, they say to defend themselves. Then we violate certain parts of the ceasefire. I'm going to be honest with you, unless Trump signs something, this crap's just going to go on and on and on. And as you're well aware of, Trump, in a recent conversation with the media, this is going to affect the midterms and the elections thereof. And, of course, Trump said he doesn't care about the midterms at this point. He does, but here's what he said. Watch this.
Right now, I think It looks like they want to just make a deal. They want to. They have. I don't think they have a choice. They're just going back to the internet because they're getting clobbered. Their economy is in free fall. They have 250% inflation. Their money has no value. Their whole economic system is broken down. They thought they were going to outweight me. We'll outweight him. He's got the midterms. I don't care about the midterms.
And of course, now China, which Trump just returned from, urges parties concerned to observe ceasefire after the United States strikes on Iran. And China, of course, is all up in arms. And of course, we're now back to a kind of a touchy ceasefire as they work on negotiation. But one thing I want to talk about here, ladies and gentlemen, is if you've heard this come up in the news several times, is the Abraham Accords. And I know a lot of you out there don't even know what the hell that is. So a quick overview. The significance of the Abraham Accords are a series of agreements that was brokered between the United States in 2020 to normalize diplomatic relations between Israel and several Arab and Muslim majority countries. Trump himself said that if Iran would behave themselves, it might be in their best interest to make Iran a part of the Abraham Accords. That's not happening yet, but he has said that perhaps down the road that Iran could be a part of this. Now, this marks a shift in Middle East policies, breaking decades of hostilities between Israel and most Arab states. As I mentioned, it was signed September 15th in 2020 in Washington, D.C. by Israel, the United Arab Emirates, the UAE, and Bahrain, and the United States. And it's named, of course, after the Abraham, the patriarch of the Judaism, Christianity, and Israel, symbolizing a shared heritage. Now, in short, the Abraham Accords are a framework for Arab-Israeli normalization between far-reaching implications for Middle East policies, security, and economic relations. And I said, Trump said that perhaps Iran could be a part of that if, they would agree to a peace agreement and things would change and they could be a part of all of this going on. Now, whether or not this will actually happen, of course, it depends what Iran chooses to do. Now, what we've got to work with here, though, is that Iran is... they're playing the United States, just like Russia plays the United States, just like China has played the United States. And Trump is either got to, shit or get off the pot, to put it bluntly. And he keeps saying, I'm going to be rushing into a decision. And of course, the Republicans, they're getting, as we're getting closer and closer to November elections, they're getting more and more nervous, and they want Trump to bring some kind of a closure to this war in Iran because it's killing them politically. And when he says, I don't care about the midterms, the Republicans, not publicly, but behind the scenes, are going, come on, man, you've got to do something here. The elections are close, and this is going to be a big deal for us. So, and on top of that, two different federal judges just handed Trump some setbacks. One ruled that Trump's name must be removed from the Kennedy Center due to improper voting. And the federal judge said him putting his name up there was actually illegal because it was named specifically to John F. Kennedy and the Kennedy Center. So then he came out with a big rant like, well, go ahead and take my name off. I don't care. Let's give it back to the people. I don't care. He literally put out he ran out of places where he could continue typing on his own platform. He was so pissed off. He just went on and on and on. And, of course, so he says, just give the center back to the people, then I don't give a crap. He says, I try to fix it up and do stuff, and you people don't even care, and I'm your president. Secondly, another judge blocked the Justice Department's $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund as the Justice Department failed to prove how it would be used and to whom it actually would be going to. They wanted to do a more in-depth investigation of how that money was released back to President Trump from, this IRS settlement. And and on top of that, this is just one lawsuit. Several other lawsuits have been filed on behalf of various other organizations calling this funding an illegal use of tax dollars, which it basically is. So between the Kennedy Center And between this anti-weaponization fund for the people who all attacked the Capitol, back in January 6th, and a lot of them were arrested, and Trump felt sorry for them. He called them patriots, and this is what this money is going to be used for. Well, a lot of organizations just said, that's our tax money, and you're not going to be using that to take care of these poor people that they were arrested, and now they want to give them money for being patriots. It is illegal, and so there's several federal judges out there who've got gruesome gonads and said, assuming that they were men. Anyway, I'm glad they did it. Of course, this will probably wind up going all back to the Supreme Court, and then of course, his cronies that sit there would probably overrule all these federal judges. But at least for now, it stalls. The Supreme Court, being that Trump's got them all in his back pocket, it will probably side with him to say this stuff's okay. But let's hope not, okay? That's all we really want to do. And other news now, the Epstein investigation panel, of course, they met with Pam Bondi. And Pam Bondi gave very, very little news back to the people that sat on that panel for several reasons. Number one, it wasn't videotaped. And number two, she wasn't under oath. So, she could just say whatever the hell she wanted to say. And because she wasn't under oath, and because it wasn't televised, and another weird thing, she had some Justice Department officials by her side whispering in her ear to tell her what to say and not to say, to make sure that she wouldn't throw Trump under the bus. But she did wind up throwing some people under the bus, and that was this guy, Todd Blanche, who used to work under her. Now he's got the post, and she did a lot to throw Todd Blanche under the bus by saying, she wasn't responsible for a lot of that stuff with the files, and that he was, and she put all the work onto him. So you want to talk to somebody, talk to Todd Blanche, not me. I'm all done with it. So that's basically how that whole thing went. Even though some of the Democrats said, well, we did get some extra information about what was going on with the Epstein files. And again, a lot of the victims were there at the hearing. She basically said, Todd Blanche did all those files, and he worked on the censorship of the files, and it's basically, he did a lot of. I put him in charge of a lot of that. She also blamed Kash Patel for some of the stuff too, but she was careful what she said, because Justice Department people were there whispering in her ears. And of course, most of the Democrats called this hearing a joke. Why they did it and what they're going to gain from it is basically a situation where I'm done with it. So, as you're well aware of, Pam Bondi just had surgery, and she was basically, kind of healing from that. You saw the little tape across her throat, and she wanted to get in there and get out of there, and she basically did. So, good for her. Now she can move on, and of course the panel's going to try to get Blanche back onto the hearing and say, okay, Pam Bondi says that you've done all this stuff now. What do you got to tell us about that? Is that true or not? So we'll see what happens. Also in the news, and this has not been reported a lot by the media, but I want to bring it to your attention. The United States Army plans to cut dozens of medical training courses amid, they call it funding shortfall, although we just give billions and billions of dollars to the State Department. But they say it's funding shortfalls, and so the U.S. Army has canceled at least 34 medical-related training courses during the second half of the Pentagon's fiscal year as part of efforts to address a multi-billion-dollar budget shortfall, so they say. The reductions come from the United States Army Medical Center of Excellence at Fort Sam Houston, Texas, the service's central hub for medical training. Now, scopes of the cuts, according to internal service documents, that the cancellations include frontline combat casualty care, programs tied to direct battlefield medical response, and leadership and certification courses for senior medical officers, including training for officers preparing to command helicopter medical evacuation units, specialized courses in animal care, behavioral science, food safety inspections, and operating in radioactive environments. Now, the reasons for the cuts are the Army said they are facing projected funding shortfalls of $4 to $6 billion. That's because we got to put all those money in military and drones and rockets so we can continue shooting at Iran. And then rising operational costs, including ongoing operations in Iran. See, I just said that. And they said fuel costs. Gee, I wonder why fuel costs are going up. Internal memorandum also cites funding shortfalls and limited resources as the primary drivers. So what this all boils down to is we don't need any medical training. Just go out there, get your butt shot off, and hope for the best. Let's not worry about that. Go out there and do everything else, though. And it's kind of sad. It's sad in the fact that this medical stuff is life-saving for soldiers. And there have been also some high-ranking military officers being unnamed, and I can see that because Pete Hegseth would probably fire them in a heartbeat or have them broken rank or court-martial them because he wants everybody to go out there and fight, and if you get shot or something and we can't help you, that's too damn bad. But it's they said that these medical courses were life-saving and they're important and they should continue them. However, off the record they're saying that, and they've been saying that to the media. And it is kind of sad that we have come down to this, that we can't do anything about it. So in other news, President Donald Trump had his third medical examinations, and there have been a lot of concerns about the chief's health and well-being. And it just came out late last night. They finally released that medical report. And, of course, the captain that is Donald Trump's personal physician gave a beautiful report that his health is fine, his heartbeat's fine, and that his swelling in his legs have come down a little bit, and but overall, for a man of his age, he's perfectly fine. Of course, the captain's going to say that, or of course, Pete Hegseth would probably bust him in rank or have him court-martialed too if he didn't say that. You think, well, Roy, the report said he's doing great. He has gained an extra 10 pounds. He needs to work on getting his weight back down. And you're probably saying, well, if the doctor says that his health is great, it must be great. And of course, they said they gave him another cognitive test, which many people say a sixth grader could take that test, and he did. And there's a little fine word in there. Overall, he did great. Notice that little quote on that report. You can look it up for yourself. It said overall he did great. So they're basically, sugarcoating the report. They're going to say what the White House wants him to say, obviously. And so he's looking good. And of course, the American people are going to go, well, Martha, he's doing great. You see that? He's okay. I don't know why people are concerned about his health. Look at that. Again, they're going on the fact that most people in the United States don't use any critical thinking skills, can look at the report and say, yeah, he's fine. Of course, I call BS on that. It's funny how he keeps going back to the doctor, and it's routine checkups for his teeth, routine checkups for his health. It's the third visit that he has had. He's also had a CT scan. So I bring this up because obviously some people are concerned, and there is something. I think that he's going on 80 years old. He's going to be the oldest president ever, even over Reagan, and they're wondering about this guy, but you've got to take into consideration that because of his age. And you've got to take in consideration that he has been having some health problems. You've got to take in consideration that people know that he's fallen asleep when he's, in meetings, and whether it's his medication or whatever. But I don't take this report. I take it with a grain of salt, really, what I do. Because the fact of the matter is that they will sugarcoat it. Other presidents have been pretty transparent when they have health issues. they protect this guy with everything, and there is zero transparency. And the doctor will put out a report whatever they want that doctor to say. He's a military doctor. Pete Hegseth is probably right over there watching that report verbatim what the captain says. Okay, so anyway, there you go. Now, and other news, of course, President Trump had a Memorial Day a message, and it's interesting what was on that too. Okay, so let's take the first part of that Memorial Day message. Of course, he went on and completely condemned the Democrats, and so this was the first part that came out, as you can see here. You can read it for yourself. He just went on and on and on and on and on about of what the Democrats, how terrible they are, and he as president has just done everything, and I blame the. Of course, he continues to blame the Obama administration. This guy is now going on his second year of his presidency. It's his watch. Everything happens on his watch. But how the hell can he continue to blame Obama and blame Biden is beyond me. But he'll continue to do it. Even when he goes out of office, it's still going to be every previous administration's fault of things that are happening and not him. So anyway, as you can see here, he went on this rant, and then he ended with Happy Memorial Day to all, including Democrats who disrespect our military and all tremendous success that's happened over the last year. God bless those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. I love you all, President Donald Trump. Democrats. Now, I bring this up because the stuff he says is what comes out of the mouth of a sixth grader. And again, he's got a great medical report, but he talks and continues to act like somebody in sixth grade with some of his actions, his words and stuff. And he's supposed to be a grown adult man. And as he gets older, he acts more and more like a child. And it's getting to me, folks, very kind of crazy, if you ask me. So I'm sorry, but you never seen previous presidents use words like Democrats and idiots and call people vile names and stuff. I mean, you can have politics, you can have civility, though, and still agree to disagree, but this guy just goes on. And of course, his loyal following says, well, it's just Trump, you know. You can't take it. I enjoy talking like I got a sixth grade trashy mouth. That's cool, don't you think? And so, yeah. So we're going to move on here in other news. So Republican leaders rush to throw their weight behind Ken Paxton. Now, if you're not familiar with this, there has been a recent runoff in Texas, and it's big news because it can kind of give you a flag of how things might be going. So Republican leaders rushed to throw their weight behind Ken Paxton, as I just stated, following his big primary victory in Texas over the four-term U.S. Senator John Cronin. Now, I just did a little piece on John Cronin this past week. He thought he was going to win re-election, and Cronin and the senator from Wyoming want to create this special new interstate and name it the Trump Interstate. Which is U.S. Highway 285 that runs from Texas to the Montana border, about 100 miles from the Canadian border, actually. Anyway, Cronin lost, so that's what I'm trying to say. And he was a little surprised, but yeah, he's going to be gone. The hours after the race was called, Donald Trump, who backed Paxton despite intense concern among establishment Republicans about Paxton's background, we'll get into that in just a minute, he took to Truth Social to attack his Democratic rival in the midterm elections, James Tallarico, who may be the worst Texas candidate I've ever seen. Of course he is. That's because he's a Democrat, so he's the worst. Trump, everybody's bad except him and the loyal Republicans to him. Everybody else is bad. And he claimed that the Austin State Representative Democratic nominee for Texas Senator was weak in crime and an advocate for open borders, reaching for a favored Republican attack online against Tallarico. Trump claimed that he was a vegan and who dislikes meat. Not exactly a good way to be if you're wanting to win elections in Texas. Oh, God, some of this childish crap that they say. The Democrat, of course, has denied being a vegan. I've been eating barbecue since before Ken Paxton's first indictment. He told the podcast earlier this week, while Texas has not elected a Democrat to the Senate since 1988, Republican operatives have privately worried that Paxton's long trial of legal troubles would make him a riskier standard bearer than the incumbent. Now, and this is where I'm going to kind of get into this. Paxton has got a lot of baggage. And Republicans were concerned about him winning this over John. And now that he has, of course, there have been even Republicans who put out attack ads against Paxton. And, of course, they took them all down when he was immediately confirmed. We got to take this stuff down. We got to back this guy. So, again, some of the stupidity of these people. They'll put out all this crap against him, and then, of course, he wins, and now we got to all get on board and support him. The Republicans have zero critical thinking skills. All they do is get in line and act like lapdogs. And, you got to go with the flow. You don't have to go with the flow. You can go however you want. But, if you want to be a lapdog and kiss everybody's hind end and do that. So, but Paxton, my God, he's had an affair. There's been corruption that's been proven. The Biden administration, since it was on the last week of the term, choose not to go after and prosecute him. But they, had to do what they had to do. And, of course, now everybody's calling him a wonderful man. And Tallarico, of course, is going to work on, even though he's kind of new to the senatorial race, he's going to go after his baggage, And, of course, they're calling him a far-left extremist. He was too radical for Texas. Senator from Iowa called him, a far-left freak. A representative from Montana called him a commie. God dang, it just goes. They say some of the most childish, stupidest stuff. And, of course, you've got these people out there who have zero critical thinking skills go, yep, he sure is. Yep, he sure is. It just amazes me. It really does. And Ted Cruz, who had purposely endorsed not anybody in the race, finally put out a statement that Ken is a fearless conservative who spent years taking on Texas' toughest battles as Attorney General, not mentioning his corruption, but he said that. So it goes on and on and on about some of this stuff. Now, what is sad here is once Paxton was confirmed, and as I said, he had an affair. His wife divorced him. He was found to be doing some corruption as Attorney General. And he was weak on prosecuting anybody. He was getting inside money. But what I want to kind of cover here that is kind of sad is what Stephen Miller said. Now, Stephen Miller said that James Tallarico was transgender during a heated online exchange, which happened this past Tuesday, as Republicans escalated the anti-LGBTQ attacks against the Democrat. The exchange began after the Democratic National Committee promoted Tallarico on its official X account following Texas Republican voters' decision to nominate Attorney General Ken Paxton over incumbent Senator John Cronin in the GOP Senate primary. President Donald Trump, of course, as I said, endorsed Paxton. You got a 34-count convicted felon president who's going to endorse a Texas AG who was taking money on the inside and was having an affair and was also found corrupt. And even the Texas Attorney General found probable cause to have him indicted, but it never made it to a federal level, so they backed off. But that's okay. He's a good guy. Anybody can, just as long as he's a Republican, I don't give a crap what he is. So after Stephen Miller said what he said, which is kind of sad here, they finally had enough of him calling him different names, and they finally came out and said this to Stephen Miller. Shut up, you ugly. You can read the rest. I think it's kind of funny. I'm glad they did. Because the fact is that Stephen Miller had no idea. First and foremost, the guy is not transgender. All right, he does support the LGBTQ culture, as a lot of Democrats do. I myself do. And but Stephen Miller had no idea and said this. And I'm glad they said what they said. Again, Stephen Miller is a moron. I'm sorry. He just really is. A lot of these Republicans shoot their mouth off, having absolutely zero facts, no critical thinking skills, and they get their agenda done by bullying people. That's how they do things. I'm bigger than you. I'm richer than you. I'm tougher than you. And if you don't do what I say and fall in line, we'll make sure that you go out the North 40 and die somewhere. That's basically how they are. Our policy is the only way, and you either get in line or we'll make you pay. And Stephen Miller is the same way. He shot his mouth off at this guy and gave poor facts. And it's sad, but that's just how things go. Now, in other news, Democratic members of Congress on Wednesday said they observed dire conditions within a federal immigration detention center in New Jersey, where protesters have been demonstrating. They've been doing it for days and asserting that detainees are on a hunger strike. And U.S. Representative Jerry Nadler, a Manhattan Democrat, said detainees at Delaney Hall in New York are being given small portions of food, and that very often contain maggots, and that the only medication they receive is Tylenol. Also, there's one woman who was breastfeeding her baby. She was separated from that child. And she also had found another woman had a lump on her breast but was still waiting on a mammogram more than a month into her detention. Another detainee was suffering from colon cancer but wasn't receiving any treatment. And, of course, the bottom line is if you are human, if you are an American, you cannot support what is going on here, said Representative Dan Goldman, another Manhattan Democrat who toured the facility Wednesday. They're living in jail conditions, and none of these people are criminals. U.S. Representative Andrew Isplot, another Manhattan Democrat, described conditions as inhumane after spending about an hour inside the facility. We will shut the center down, he vowed. We will shut it down. 6 protesters were arrested after a clash with ICE officers outside of that detention center. So they have been, reporting on this. Now, what happens is of course, ICE and the Department of Homeland Security, when you've got representatives that want to tour a facility, they will stall you and stall you and stall you and stall you some more until they finally cave in. And when they do get these people in there that can, go through the facility, they immediately try to improve the conditions as best they can, extra blankets and stuff. It's just like a concentration camp. I can't say it any other way. These people don't give a crap. And the other problem is they lie. There's just no way about it. Now, I'm going to roll this clip here that I want you to watch. First, President Trump speaks out, and of course, and then he gets his other little crony on there to speak to, and that's Mark Mullen, who has taken over as Secretary for the Homeland Security, and he's from Oklahoma, but he's a mouthpiece for Trump too. Anyway, watch this clip.
Jersey leaders pushing back against ICE operations at Delaney Hall.
About ICE?
Yes.
Or about NICE, as I call it, NICE. The NICE facility. I'd love to change the name, call it NICE. They do a great job, and it's all paid for protesters. You can see by the signs. The signs are all made by the same beautiful factory. It's a printing plant. In fact, I'm thinking about using it. They do such a nice job. These aren't protesters. These people are fake. They're all paid for. And I will tell you, Tom Homan and that whole group, and now Mark Wayne is so incredible. Mark Wayne, do you want to just respond to that? We run the finest facilities anywhere in the world of their type. But we have some horrible killers. We have guys that have murdered numerous people in there, and these are the people they're trying to protect. There's nobody that runs a facility like we do. Mark Wade, please.
Yeah, it shows this radical left Democrats' priorities when they decide to go out and protest a detention center where we're housing rapists, child predators, murderers, drug dealers, and they choose Memorial Day of all the time to go protest something that they say that they're that it's because they're on a hunger strike when there was only a handful of individuals that was refusing to eat because they want their ethnic group or their ethnic right food. Well, they can go back to their country and get whatever food they want. The fact is, we're giving them the calories they want. This isn't Holiday Inn. We're giving them sanitation. But for the Democrats and the governor, like Governor Sherrill and Senator Kim and Senator Booker, to go out and do something like this of all the days is very frustrating. And we see Antifa signs are literally out there. The local police literally refusing to respond. They barricade it, not allowing our employees to come in and out. ICE has to go out there, remove the barricade, and then you have one of the senators complain because he got splattered with a pepper ball. I'm sorry, you probably shouldn't have been there.
You know, one thing I'll say about that, the local police, I know a lot of the New Jersey police, they're phenomenal.
Yeah, you heard that, okay? So the bottom line is, and there has been a study done, is these detention facilities, concentration camps, whatever you want to call them, less than 5%, and this has been a study that has been done, and you can look it up, less than 5% of people are actually convicted felons in these detention centers. Less than 5%. The Cato Institute did a study. The other 95% are people who have actually committed no crime at all, have no criminal records. They have just been rounded up because maybe expired green cards or whatever, and they're put into these facilities. And they are families who have been separated from their children, from their loved ones, and they were hardworking taxpayers. This is another study that has been done. These immigrants that are being rounded up, they have been paying taxes just like you and I. They have worked, and they've had Social Security cards and stuff, but they've been rounded up. And so here they are. And you wonder why they're out. These people are out protesting them. And you can say all you want, but if you really think that people who have no criminal records and have not had a chance to renew their green cards or have been to immigration courts, and then just as soon as they're going in to try to do the right thing, they're arrested by ICE, if you think that's right, just because you are a white privileged American and think, well, that's too damn bad, you need to frickin' grow up. You really do. You need to get your head on straight and use some critical thinking skills. This is not what America is. Again, I keep going back to the Statue of Liberty and the plaque that Lady Liberty holds. Bring me your tired, your poor. These people that come to this country because they want to make a better life for not only for their family but for themselves, and have done nothing wrong. They're not all rapists, killers, drug dealers, just what Trump says they are, because that's a BS lie. You already know who's in these people have seen this firsthand. These congressmen in the detention centers, what they're seeing, and it's just like Nazi Germany. I'm sorry to say that, but it's what it is, and that's the Nazi Germany concentration camps. The way we're treating these people. And they can lie out of their teeth all they want, but I'm sorry, it bothers me. It really does, and that's why I do this podcast. All right, in other news that's quite interesting, the National Park Service is spending at least $67 million. I repeat, $67 million from national park entrance fees to help fund President Donald Trump's beautification projects in Washington, i.e. Repainting the reflection pool, i.e. His ballroom, i.e. the arch that he wants to build. Now, according to the New York Times analysis of federal records, the Trump administration is funding nearly $60 million in repairs to 9 ornamental foundations and fountains also in D.C., and another $7 million towards the renovation of the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool, as I just mentioned. And the administration was awarded a no-bid contract to a Virginia-based Atlantic Industrial Coatings to repair the reflecting pool, which is almost done, and paint it blue. Now, federal records show that the contract is worth $13.1 million, more than 7 times what Trump initially promised the work would cost. Additionally, the firm is being paid an inflated profit margin, according to federal documents obtained by the New York Times. The profit margin for federal construction contracts is typically between 6 and 12%. This company charged 20%, adding at least $850,000 to what a typical contract would have cost. Our parks and public lands have been underfunded for decades, and there are many genuinely urgent projects within the national parks themselves that need funding across the country, said Aaron Weiss, executive director of the Center for Western Priorities. Instead, internal documents have also showed that Secretary of Interior Doug Bergman was determined to divert those millions of dollars to projects that President Trump can see out his window. In other words, Trump told him, give me some more money, and he did. Now, the Park Service has a backlog of deferred maintenance projects for repairs, such as bathrooms in our national parks, campgrounds, roads, visitor centers, and other aging infrastructure that came to an estimated $23 billion at the end of 2024. Now, here's what's going on. First and foremost, there is no, quote, law that says that when you're using entrance fees that a certain percentage of that money can be diverted to other projects. So technically, the Department of Interior can use some of that money for projects like what Trump wants, and it's legal, all right? What is devastating here as we go into the summer season, millions and millions of visitors are now going to our national parks and are going to be faced with things like deteriorated campgrounds, bathrooms that are closed or do not work, roads that may need repair and are not being repaired. And that is what the entrance fee money is supposed to be used for. They're supposed to be used for the actual parks or where those entrance fees are collected to help, such as Yellowstone, which is our first and our largest national park. It has a very short summer season. Winter is very hard on that national park because of its elevation and where it's located. And they're not going to get any money. All right. Same with Yosemite, Grand Teton National Park. I can go on and on. Arches National Park in Utah. All of those national parks depend upon entrance fees, collections, and those monies to help those parks to where it's collected. And what does Trump do? Screw him. Give me that money so I can fix up my stuff that I want, And of course, since all the people that are on his cabinet are appointed by him, elected by him. I shouldn't say, appointed, but, the Congress just, whatever you want, sir. And so he gets what he wants. And, Trump says, I don't give a crap about the rest of the national parks. You get what I want and fix it. So there you go. It's what can I say? You're going to get this stuff done, and he gets what he wants. All right. So, and again, this next story just blows me away too. Like I said, this is one of those weeks where you're going to get all the stuff that you want about Trump. First, we talked about all his little pet projects that he wants. And now, of course, as you're well aware of, Donald Trump wants his face on a $250 bill. So, and that will probably happen too, because Congress, which is all controlled by the Republicans, give Trump whatever he wants. Typically, when you put your face on currency, paper currency, you are a president who has passed away, and you are honored by having your portrait based on some money. Not with Donald Trump. I want it now, by God. So the law, as the law currently states, no living president can appear on currency, but the administration is preparing for the possibility that Congress will pass legislation, in which they will, honoring Donald Trump for the 250th anniversary of the United States by putting his portrait on a newly created $250 bill. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said in the White House briefing room Thursday that we prepared things in advance, but we will stick to the law. But we assume that Congress will pass this law and honor President Trump by allowing his portrait to be placed on a $250 bill honoring the 250th anniversary of this country. And so there you go. Let's go ahead and just do that. He's already got his banners of his face hanging off of our federal buildings, just like you see in China, and like you see in Russia. He thinks that's cool, so let's do it here in the U.S. too. So I want my image everywhere, so people all know who I am. I'm your president. I'm the best president you have ever seen. I am great. I'm greater than God himself, and just remember that and look at me. And you must see me everywhere you walk, what you say, what you do, what you chew. I want you to always make sure that you see my face because I am your president and you will bow down to me. So now you're going to see my face on the currency. And like I said, the doctor says this guy has no medical issues. So there you go. And of course, another thing that Trump wants to do is have this great American state fair, and multiple musical acts are starting to back out of the Great American State Fair, which was to be a 16-day concert series at the National Mall, backed by the Trump administration to celebrate the United States 250th anniversaries. Now, many performers are starting to pull out, citing that the event had become too politically charged, while others stated they were misled or never agreed to play in the first place. They just said that they're going to play without ever being contacted. Canceled performances that were originally to be publicized on the lineup but have since withdrawn, distanced themselves, or denied involvement, including Morris Day, and he's just one of the acts that have said that they're not going to do it. Martina McBride said she was initially pitched a nonpartisan event, but she pulled out after learning it was going to be a partisan lineup. Brett Michaels withdrew after receiving threats and concluding the event had evolved into something much more than what he agreed to be a part of. The Commodores have pulled out, said that they will not perform, citing a long-standing policy of not being affiliated with any political event. Young MC stated he told his agents to cancel because he was never told about the political involvement with the event either. And this is what it is. Now you got Trump. He's got this big WWF fighting event going on in the backyard of the White House, and all these big blinking arches. And this is another thing that's just gone on. Since it's supposed to be a 250th anniversary event that he's starting with the summer season, Pete Hegseth told that he wants the military there in the front rows, and the military's got to pay out of their own pockets to get there, and that they got to be a lean, mean fighting machine. He wants to make sure that they're all within the weight limits of what a soldier should be, and he's ordered, he hasn't asked, he ordered these people to be at this event, okay? It's turning into a frickin' political circus. Again, this is the stuff that Trump wants to do because he is odd and how things are handled in communist China and Russia, things that they do, and he wants the same thing where he is glorified in his own image, and people need to see this. And these fights are nothing but entertainment. They're not real. I think anybody that's got any common sense knows that they're staged and not real. And how WWF fighting is the great American thing, and again, you order your military people to show up in this thing in uniform, and you draw these people on because Donald Trump says so. It's unbelievable. And So and then he wants this big 16-day concert series, and of course the people that are going to be there now are going to be loyal Trump supporters. And of course, now that these people have canceled and back out, of course, he's going to start throwing mud at them. You're a communist. You don't believe in America. And like I said, if it was just something celebrating America without any political attachment, it would be great. I mean, I would support it too. If we can just say it's like July 4th, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, you celebrate July 4th because, it's our Independence Day. But see, people are getting so drugged down now that they don't feel that there is anything of independence. Gas is high; they can't put food on the table. They're not really happy the way this country is going, and a lot of these performers feel the same way. And if they could just play and say, "God bless America," and keep the politics out of it, they would probably do so. But Trump doesn't want the politics out of it. He wants the politics, and he wants it to be a celebration of him, not the 250th anniversary of the country, because he feels he's created the 250th. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have. It's the mindset, and that's what's turning people off. Let's celebrate us, America, and keep the politics out of it. Celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States and keep the politics out of it. But we can't do that, and Trump doesn't want to do that. And because contrary to popular belief, not everybody supports this current administration. All right? I'm sorry, that's just the facts. We still have First Amendment rights, our Fourth Amendment rights. We still have a Democratic Party, an Independent Party, and a Republican Party. And so, unfortunately, you can't, you can't force people to believe the way that you want to believe. You just can't do it. And as I wrap up this particular podcast, there's something that I've done this before on my show. I've talked about IAPAC, and it's kind of coming back in the news again because of what Israel is doing. And this organization, which is a pack of Israel, they put $51 million into, for lack of better words, buying off politicians. So they will support anything that Israel does. And this also includes Democrats, all right? I always try to be transparent on this show as much as I can. And Democrats are just as guilty as Republicans. And so Wesley Bell, who is a Democrat, he's from Missouri. They've given him $5 million. Hakeem Jeffries, whom you all know is the minority speaker of the House, he has taken $866,000 from IAPAC. You've got some other people too, but you've also got people who have not accepted one red penny from IAPAC. And I'm going to read you their names because these are people who can still do an independent thought process of either supporting or not supporting Israel without any financial obligation to what Israel has tried to bribe them, for lack of better words, to give them money and say, here you go, buddy, support us. So anyway, here are the people. Greg Caesar, a Democrat from Texas. Pramulia Japal, a Democrat from Washington. Summer Lee, a Democrat from Pennsylvania. Alexandria Cortez, or AOC, she has not accepted one red cent from Israel. Ian O'Mara from Minnesota. Mark Pocan, a Democrat from Wisconsin. Anna Priestley, a Democrat from Massachusetts. Delia Ramirez, a Democrat from Illinois. Rashida Tlaib, from a Democrat from Michigan, and Nayib Velazquez, a Democrat from New York. Also, Bernie Sanders has also and not taken any money from IAPAC. Thomas Massey, a Republican from Kentucky, has not taken any money from IAPAC. All right, and what that means is that they can, talk however they wish to talk. vote however they wish to vote and not be influenced by Israel. Now, I know a lot of people out there say we got to support Israel. That's your choice. The trouble is Israel in its current situation with the leader that they have in place has become so infatuated with war and wanting to start taking control of all the countries around them. That has raised a massive concern among many people, including these 10 people who will not take money from the PAC from Israel so they can vote their conscience and not have to feel they're obligated financially to vote one way or another. And when you see $85 million being invested into our congressional organization, both our Congress and our senators, I mean, they're buying their votes to make sure that they continue to fund the war effort. And yes, it's legal. I'm not saying it's not illegal, because it is legal. I mean, there are people who have PACs and lobbyists all the time going to Capitol Hill to make sure that they can try to influence votes and, make people vote one way or another. And the way they do that is they grease their fingers and stick cash in their pocket. And that's what has happened here. And when you stick cash in their pocket and they accept that money, then they are obligated to say, we have financially helped you. Now you're going to vote what we want you to vote our way to help us out, okay? Whether it be the gun lobbyists, whether it be the NRA, whether it be Israel, you grease the spoon that's going to give you the votes. And so these people will do what they want to do. Those who have a conscience and refuse to accept funds from them can still vote their conscience and what they think is the way it should be or not be. And I give kudos to these 10 people who have not accepted money from IAPAC. And one of my first podcasts, I did a really in-depth study about this. And you can go back. It's still online if you want to watch that. So that's my podcast for this week. We'll see what Trump decides to do, whether he'll accept Iran's peace proposal. He'll probably make some kind of decision early next week, if not even on Sunday. And again, this detention center in New Jersey, I pray and hope to God they do something with it. The conditions there are deplorable. I don't care what you hear from the mouths of the people who say it's not and that they're all thugs and felons. That's not true. If you believe that, I feel sorry for you. You need to do your research. That's what this show is about, critical thinking skills. You may say it's biased. I don't care if that's what you think. I'm telling you what the facts are, and that you got to know the facts before you jump into anything else. If you want to just hear talking mouths and believe everything you say, if somebody says the sky's purple and you say, okay, Martha, they say the sky's purple, it's got to be purple because they say it's purple, then that's your mindset. So be it. All right. Until next week, please, you try to have a good day. All right. Take care.